Let us close the eyes. With deep love, let us remember God and the Masters. Let us pray together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us all. May we enjoy food together. May we pray and meditate together. May we attain wisdom through our study and discussion. May there be no conflict among us. May there be peace within and everywhere. Om. Amen. Good morning and welcome to our series of lectures on the topic Mystery of Death. In our last class, we had discussed that whatever is the last thought before death, that determines the next birth. So it is very important to think of God at the last moment. And that is possible only when we have practiced it throughout our life. In the Holy Scripture, Bhagavatam, there is a story of a Brahmin, Ajamil. Ajamil was a Brahmin who lived in the city of Kanyakubja many years ago. This is a city in the northern part of India. Due to his birth, parentage, and social upbringing, he was a young man who maintained all the practices and observances of a righteous life. He was virtuous and pure-hearted, lived in austere way. He was learned in Vedas and other scriptures and followed the ways of conduct written in the Vedas. He accorded due respect to his parents and elders. He was friendly and helpful to all, moderate in his speech, and had his senses well under control. One day, however, he was led off in a most unruly fashion by the senses and the mind. Leaving behind the scriptures, the study and observances, he took up a lifestyle the very opposite of austere. He fell in love with a prostitute, and without any real way to support her and the 10 sons they eventually had later on, he took to gambling, highway robbery, stealing, and corruption. So he spent the remainder of his years until he was 88 years old. So among his 10 sons, the youngest one was Narayana, and he gave this name because Sage Narad had visited him once and told that you should keep the name of your youngest son as Narayana. Narayana means Lord Vishnu. So Narayana was the youngest son, was most dear to his parents. The father Ajamil was completely, strongly infatuated by him. Absorbed in his life, Ajamil was completely unaware of greater forces at work. He didn't feel his lifetime ebbing away, and he did not even consider that his own death was approaching. One day, there appeared three of the ferocious creatures carrying huge ropes, grinning, beckoning horribly. Ajamil didn't even recognize the attendants of Yama, the Lord of Death. Struck with fright, he screamed aloud to his child playing nearby, Narayan! Narayan! At this cry from the dying man, who had not even realized he was dying, the attendants of Lord Vishnu came rushing to Ajamil's side, blocking the attendants of Yama, who roared angrily, Who are you to obstruct the order of Dharmaraj, the Lord of Justice? The attendants of Lord Vishnu, however, were equally adamant and replied challengingly, If you are indeed the attendants of Lord Dharmaraja, then you would be able to tell us the essence of Dharma and its signs. And then there was a heated debate began on Dharma and Adharma, righteousness and unrighteousness, and the effects of acts of merit and demerit. The attendants of Yama recounted Ajamil's previous history, which even by simplest calculations of accumulated merit and demerit didn't look very promising. They argued that his unrighteous conduct far overweighed and negated his observances of the Vedas and other scriptures. Also, they argued the attendants of Lord Vishnu had no right to interfere in the first place, as Ajamil had just been calling his son. Yet, Lord Vishnu's attendants stood firm and proclaimed, Whosoever utters the name of Lord, even by accident, calls for protection. Furthermore, they counted, as a fire consumes fuel, so the Lord's name, whether chanted with or without knowledge of the greatness of the name, destroys the unrighteous elements in a person. A powerful medicine, though taken by someone unaware of its properties, is still effective. So defeated, the attendants of Lord of Death returned empty-handed. Ajamil immediately left for Hardwar. It's a place in the foothill of Himalayas in North India, where he sat on the banks of the river practicing the yoga of devotion. So for those who aspire for liberation, there is nothing more powerful than the chanting of name of God. If this can rescue Ajamil, the Srimad Bhagavatam tells what to say of the results that can be obtained by chanting the name of Lord with faith and devotion. Although this is just a story to inspire us, but it has a great message that even without knowledge, if we remember God at the time of death, then God will rescue us. You might have heard about the great master of path of devotion, Bhakti Yoga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to another town, and he was accompanied by his young disciple. So on the way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he felt urgency to attend the call of nature. So he told his disciple to come with him and stay at some distance, who was carrying water pot. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to answer the nature's call. And he came back, washed his hands, feet, and mouth. But disciple, this young disciple was observing that while answering the nature's call, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rolled his tongue. And he asked that, why did you do that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told that my tongue is so used to chant name of God, and while answering that nature's call, one should not chant name of God as per the scriptures, because that is not considered as a holy place or right place. So I didn't want to chant there. That's why I rolled my tongue back. Disciple asked, but master, you also tell that there is no guarantee of life. Breath can stop at any moment. He said, yes, it can. Then breath can stop at the moment when you are answering nature's call also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, it is also possible. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately realized what the disciple was trying to say. So this incident again has a message that no matter wherever you are, we should not forget God. Even mentally we can chant name of God, and that helps us a lot. So these questions, when to chant and why to chant name of God all the time, it brings us again to another question which is asked very often, the question about the reincarnation. Because some people believe in reincarnation, some do not. However, I'll just tell you a few things about reincarnation. Sorry. As we discussed that death is not the end of life. It is just another opportunity. When you are working on a project, I'm giving you an example to understand what reincarnation is. When you are working on a project in your office and you could not finish the work, then what do? You come next day and finish the work. This is simple logic. This is what is reincarnation. In the process of evolution of soul, the soul has gone through many reincarnations and stages like stone, plants, birds, reptiles, animals, and then it assumes the human form. According to Padma Purana, the number of births a soul has to go through are mentioned as 8.4 million species. So Padma Purana has given this calculation. Jalaja Navalakshani, it is on your slide. Jalaja Navalakshani, Sthavara Lakshavinshati, Kramayo Rudra Sankhyanah, Pakshinam Dashalakshyanam, Trinshata Lakshani Pashavah, Chatur Lakshani Manavah. So how many species total we have? When the soul goes from one form to other form, so it has total 8.4 million species. Number of births, you can say. How? So in this verse from Padma Purana, it is said, Jalaja Navalakshani, water-based life forms are there, 0.9 million. Immobile plants and trees, Sthavara, 2 millions. Reptiles, 1.1 million. Birds, 1 million. Terrestrial animals are 3 millions. And human, 4.4 million. So 400,000 birds, 400,000 birds in human being. So total it comes 8.4 million species or birds a soul has to go through before it becomes perfect. So if you see the same description you can find in the book of Gurudev, Kriya Yoga. the science of soul culture. Gurudev also has mentioned about this because this same calculation is mentioned in Holy Bhagavatam also. So you can see here, even humans who are like animals, I won't say that they are perfect human being because we have come from all these species. Sometimes we were stone, birds, plants, and then in the process of natural evolution means development of mind and intellect, we became human being. So in human beings, we still have 400,000 births. And that is why you see difference in human beings. There are various types of human living with different sets of mind depending on their own evolution. Now, after human being, what is next? We already have crossed these 8.4 millions approximately. We don't know how many, but surely before 400,000, we have crossed all those species of birds. Now we are evolved. We have developed mind, fully grown intelligence. After humans, the next stage is to become divine being and going back to the source, merging with God, which is called liberation. So incarnation helps us. How? Death provides an opportunity to get another life so that one can rectify the mistakes and learn the lessons of love, compassion, humility, and manifest divine qualities to become a perfect human being. As we have examples of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Buddha, Lord Jesus, and so on. They are the epitome or perfect example of human being, who are God in human being. Now, it brings us to another conclusion that if we want to be liberated, then surely we need a human birth, because in other forms of species, we cannot perform spiritual practice or action. So human birth is only karma yoni, not bhoga yoni. Karma yoni means you can perform action only in this human form. You'll ask why? Because you have developed mind and you have intellect. In other species, mind is there, but it is not developed. They have absence of intellect. So only human being is endowed with these uh, higher faculties. That's why we can discriminate, we can choose what action is right, what is not. Whereas animals or plants, they cannot choose. They have to evolve by the process, natural process of evolution. What does it mean? We can perform action in human body only and attain liberation. If we are not liberated and leave the body, we don't want to be born in other body like animal or bird. How to ensure that we get human body in the next life so that we may continue our spiritual practices on this journey and reach our goal of realization? As a general rule, if you are human being, so most probably you will become a human again in next life. And I can give you a logical uh, explanation about this. Suppose a student who is studying in the school, let's say ninth grade, he does his best, studies throughout the year, then he appears for his examination, he writes his papers, and then there is a result. If he is scoring good marks, so he will be promoted to the 10th grade. But if he does not do well, what will happen? He has to repeat the same lesson in the ninth grade, but nobody can force the student to go back to 8th grade. It is impossible. So also, when the soul already has crossed these uh, 8 millions, more than 8 millions births, so they are lower category, subhuman species. So we already have crossed them. We cannot go back in a natural process of evolution. If you are a human being, in next life also you will be human being. Only two cases, as we mentioned in the earlier classes. If someone commits suicide, may not get human birth at least for 2 to 3 lives and go back to animal births. Or sudden death, when there is no possibility or time for the exchange of our experiences, memories, as we discussed before, between the astral body and the dead body. Otherwise, if you are a human, you will be human. So this is assurance. But still, if you want to make sure that we want to be human so that we can continue our spiritual practice, there are three ways. What are the ways? First, it is a universal divine law that whatever is given in charity or donation returns multifold in next life. And we all know that if you give, suppose you give 1 cent, so it is multiplied and you receive the same thing back, maybe 100, maybe 1000. So it is multiplied. So whatever charity or donation we give, it returns back, it returns to us multifold in next life. So whatever knowledge you have, listen very carefully, whatever knowledge you have, distribute it. God is bound to give you knowledge, and only human being can get knowledge. Whatever skills, knowledge you have, distribute it to others, because what you give, it will come back to you multifold. So God is bound to give you back knowledge, and knowledge can be attained only when you are human being. So definitely God is bound to give you a human birth. This is a surety. So follow this rule. Second possibility, be engaged in some spiritual practice to be liberated. One who is engaged in a spiritual path will get opportunity repeatedly for liberation until he or she achieves the goal. Because you are already on the path, so you will get another opportunity. So always be engaged in some spiritual practice. And this is the assurance again. If you read in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has assured, because Arjuna asked this question, that Lord, what will happen if I don't attain liberation in this life? I'm already practicing. And same question comes to us, that I am practicing yoga, I am practicing some other spiritual discipline, but what will happen if I don't get samadhi, I don't get liberation in this life? Do I need to start from scratch again in the next life? So here Lord Krishna has given assurance in the 6th chapter, verse number 41 and 42. Prapya punya kratam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha शुचीनाम श्रीमताम गेहे योग भ्रष्टो भी जायते अथवा योगिनाम एव कुले भवति धीमताम एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम लोके जन्म यदीदृशम. Meaning is that prapya punyakratam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha, the unsuccessful yogis. Because in this chapter Lord Krishna is talking about the yoga, that's why he is referring a person as yogi. So if a yogi has not attained liberation in this life, and upon death he goes to the abode of the virtuous. We discussed that in our previous class, from bhuloka to bhuva, swaha, maha, jana, tapa, satya, and so on. So from pitruloka, the second center, these yogis don't stay there, but they immediately ascend to the higher plane for some time, enjoy some virtuous result of virtuous action there, and after dwelling there for many ages or some years, it depends on their karma, they are again reborn in the earth plane into a family of pious and prosperous people. What is said? Athva yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimata, means they are born in the family of yogis, so that they don't need to struggle in their childhood for other shores. They immediately begin their path, resume their path, I would say, and continue their journey, attain liberation in next life. So they are born into a family endowed with divine wisdom. Such a birth is very difficult to attain in this world. So this is the assurance from the Lord that if you are following a spiritual path, take it granted, next life, if you don't complete your project, you will be born in a spiritual family and continue your path where you stopped. And you don't need to begin from the scratch. Whatever impressions or spiritual practice you have performed in this life, you will carry forward these practices and you'll continue from that point onwards. So there is no downfall. This is such a big assurance. There is third possibility if you want to be human being in next life. With strong, noble and unselfish desire to do good for or to serve the community, serve the country, serve the humanity. If you have this desire that I want to serve the humanity, I want to serve the country, I want to serve the community in a noble way, then that good desire will bring you back in next life as a human being. Because God will give you that opportunity in human birth because this is a noble desire. So these are three ways to make sure that you will be born as human being. Desires are part of our life because we cannot be completely free from desires. At least we will have highest desire to attain liberation. But desires can be transformed. We have to be really careful about the desires. What we desire, we get it today or tomorrow. I remember a story, you might have heard it from Guruji also, that when Guruji was studying in his college, he heard this story from his professor that a young engineer, while doing his official duty, stopped by a roadside cremation ground. He saw a pretty young, attractive lady who was to be cremated. Seeing her body, he thought that if she had still been alive, he would have been happy to marry her. And that was all. From that day onward, his life was very unusual. He was unmarried, but when he returned in the evening after work, he would find everything in his residence well organized, as though he had a wife or a domestic help who was taking care of him. He felt the presence of someone in his house. Yet, he could not live anywhere except his current residence. He could not get a transfer. He could not get even married. A few years had passed when he narrated this condition to a knowledgeable friend and well-wisher. The friend advised him to pray to the spirit from the core of his heart, seeking her grace to depart and allow him to move forward in his life. And that advice worked. This is a true story, quite unusual, but very thrilling. And it teaches us to be careful of our thoughts and expressions. A thought can affect so much in life. So we have been discussing on this topic, mystery of death. We understood a lot. So just to conclude this topic, death is not the opposite of life, but it is the absence of life. Death is the truth and reality of life. Once we are born, death is inevitable. Most of us forget this bitter truth, but if we want to grow in humility, we must always remember death. And we must remember that death can knock at our door at any time. When we understand that the breath is currently with us, but there is no certainty about the next breath, then attachment, pride, arrogance will find no accommodation in our lives. Death is a great teacher. We see people dying every day. We hear about death every day. And yet, our minds are not kindled with the flame of knowledge. Blessed are those who remember death with love and prepare every moment with humility and surrender to be received by God with love. Remembering death, death is greatest strength. It is not the sign of weakness or a depressed attitude. It is real strength that creates more humility and develops efficiency. Just imagine that if someone tells you, or if you come to know that you are going to die soon, maybe in few days. We heard that story from Holy Bhagavatam, how King Parikshit, knowing that his death was approaching within next 7 days, he prepared himself to be engaged in spiritual pursuits and attain liberation. So just imagine if you know how your behavior, how your attitude should be. Instead of becoming afraid, we need to prepare that, yes, I'm going to be renewed. So we should be ready. And how should be our attitude? Can we become angry if we know that tomorrow we are going to die? Can we become upset with others? Can we hurt others? We have only few days left. We don't know when death will knock at our door. So we have to be careful. This is how great this death is great teacher, teaching us humility, and it increases our devotion. Okay, now the time to think of God. We need to live in this knowledge that death is only for the body and we are not this body, but we are the immortal soul. Then why to worry? Why there is fear? Because death is for the body, it is changing the body. As an immortal soul, we are not affected by death. We should remain in our own blissful nature all the time. We have to understand death as ultimate truth of life and accept it as a natural process of life. So we discussed a lot about death. That death is just a process, a transition, going from one room to other room. So there is no need to be afraid of death, and we should be happy to get a new body with new set of relations, a new opportunity to improve our performance, to rectify our mistakes, and to make effort for our liberation. We discussed that how what happens before death, how the soul prepares, how the astral body is formed with those prayers of Shraddha. Then what happens to the soul when it goes to the higher planes and when it comes back. We discussed that how we can prepare for the death. So today we are going to conclude our topic. I hope it will help you to be more strong and not to be afraid of death, but accept this reality, make the best of your life. This is the opportunity. If you don't want to come back to be born again, let us try our best to practice Kriya Yoga, to meditate sincerely and be liberated in this life which is assured by our masters in the lineage. However, it is my pleasure and privilege to discuss on this topic with you. I received a couple of questions on this topic, so I'll just take those questions. There's one question. If a soldier gets shot in head in a war and dies immediately within a couple of minutes, does that person go to Viraswarga, means heaven, or become a preta spirit, as he did not have enough time for a proper departure. So when a soldier is going to the battlefield, he goes with the mindset that he may not return alive. So he is already dedicating his mind, his thought for serving the country, and that's why he will not become a spirit even if he dies instantly. So he will not become a spirit, but he will be liberated. He will ascend to the heavenly abode. So higher plane where he can exhaust some of his karmas. So he doesn't need to become a spirit because his mind is already prepared before going to battlefield. Spirit form is there because we are not accepting the death. As we discussed that when the soul separates, associated with mind, memory, causal and astral body, so the mind does not accept that it is dead, and that is where the suspension comes, or the suspended form of spirit comes. But in case of the soldiers, they are prepared, they have accepted death, and it is a righteous act. So as per the dharma or morality or righteousness, dying in battlefield is a surety to attain heaven. Second question is, if the children do not believe in Shraddha ceremony and do not intend to do so, is there a way for a Hindu person to perform his or her Shraddha while alive without becoming a monk? Yes, we discussed last time. In the modern time, we are forgetting our cultural values, and sometimes we don't know. So if the children do not believe in Shraddha ceremony, means the post-death rituals to help the soul ascend to higher planes and becoming free from the spirit suspended form, yes, there is a way. There are two possibilities, that if your children are not interested or do not believe in Shraddha ceremony, no problem. You can ask a priest, or you can go to a holy place in India like Gaya or Allahabad or Hardwar, Ujjain, and there are many holy places. So you can go there, and there are qualified priests who can perform this Shraddha ceremony on your behalf. There's another possibility that sometimes people do, they do their Atma Shraddha, means they know if there is nobody to perform these ceremonies after death, so they themselves perform this ceremony with the help of a priest. Although when a person becomes monk, this ceremony of known as Atma Shraddha is performed. So we offer our own Shraddha so that we are free from that responsibility. We don't have anybody because we are not married. So we don't need to depend on anybody, and we do our Atma Shraddha. Similarly, if a person knows that the time of death is approaching, so one can go to a holy place and ask the priest, qualified priest, they will, and you can perform your Atma Shraddha. This is also a possibility. Okay, next question is, let's say a Hindu person is injected to death because of some severe illness that he or she could not recover from. If the body was cremated with proper cremation rites, but none of these ceremonies for the next 13 days were performed, can that person still go to Pitraloka with the astral body, or will the person become a spirit and has to wait for a liberation from that state? So we discussed in the previous class that this spirit form, or this is, most of the time one has to become a spirit for a short while before this 13 days Shraddha ceremonies or Pindadan is performed, because that Pindadan is the process of, it is a reminder for the mind associated with the soul and astral body that you are dead and you have to move now for your onward journey. So in this case, if the rites are not performed, I'm talking about the Hindu ceremony because your question about Hindu person. So if the rites are not performed properly for 13 days, there is a possibility that soul may not ascend because of strong attachment, desires, unfulfilled desires, and sometimes the person doesn't want to leave, means the soul doesn't want to leave. So depending on one's own strong attachment, strong desires, one may not want to ascend. So your karma are more responsible than the rituals. But if a person is detached, person is spiritual, then that person may not, even if the rites are not performed for 13 days, may not assume the spirit form but become free from that quickly. Because so important is your own karma. Rituals are helping only to make sure that you are free from that spirit form, but the that state mainly depends on your own karma, your own attachment and strong desires. So we have to be careful from that. However, in such case, we don't know whether the person has strong desires or not. So to make sure, what we can do, if this 13 days Shraddha ceremony is not performed, then someone in the family who is elderly male person can go to a holy place and take the help of the qualified priest taking sankalpa. So on behalf, they can become representative of the departed person and still perform those ceremonies. So in that way, we can help the soul. This last question. What would happen to those souls who died in terrorist attacks, like in Vienna, in Mumbai, and so on? However, so again, it depends on their own karma. Why this so many people died together? They have some collective karma. They must have done something wrong in their one of their previous lives, and so the circumstances are created that they have to die together in such condition. Now what would happen? It depends on their own karma, in their own desires. They may, some of them may remain in spirit form, some will not assume spirit form, some will just ascend, because even if the Hindu rituals or the Shraddha ceremony is not performed, but definitely there are some prayers offered. In each religion we discuss, there are prayers for ascension of soul, so it will help. And even if it is not done, then people get together and they send their prayers, so that will also help them. So it depends on their karma, and what we can do, we can pray for them, and we should pray for everybody. So however, we had these 4 questions today. I'm happy to be part of this discussion. So I would like to thank you all. If you have any question, you can still ask. We have a couple of minutes.
Baba, I have a question. This is Anne.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? So if you aren't part of any type of religion and your loved one passes, what is the best practice to perform for that person?
In one of our previous classes, we discussed that even if we don't have resources, or even if we don't know about the person or about the practices, one can go to a secluded place, lifting the hands up with devotion in the heart, pray to God for that soul, and that also works as the complete ritual performed by the priest or other people. So the sincere prayer from core of the heart also works if we have good intentions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for being with us. Okay, I have got one more question. Thank you for a wonderful series of talk. Can a daughter perform the rituals? So here we need to be clear about that. As per the Vedic instructions, daughters cannot perform Shraddha or these rituals because they belong to the other family. Once they are married, so they assume the name and gotra of their husband. So they don't belong. That's why they are not given this authority. Another thing, that performing Shraddha ceremony, one has to, in the ritualistic practice, one has to change the sacred thread. With each mantra, there's a different position in which you have to sit in different direction, and the sacred thread which is on your shoulder, you have to change it from right to left, sometimes in the middle. And daughters do not have the threads, so that's why they are not allowed. But there is a way. They cannot perform the Shraddha ceremony during 13 days, but they can perform, daughters or any mother in the family, they can go to holy place and perform the Shraddha ceremony on behalf of the departed soul. Only these 13 days immediately after death, that Shraddha ceremony is only performed by the son or the next to the son, whoever is available as male person. So this is another way, that you cannot do the Tithi Shraddha, but you can do the Shraddha for the same person going to a holy place. You yourself can perform with the help of a priest. So it is equally giving the same effect. What is the difference between soul and spirit? So I think you missed the first and second lecture. Spirit, we discussed in detail that when the soul when the soul leaves the physical body, so soul is associated with mind, memory in astral and causal body. Now what happens? The soul is separated, and we discussed that there is a silver like a electromagnetic silver cord which is connected between the head of the dead body and the feet of the astral body, and all the memories, experiences are transferred, which takes 45 minutes to 3 hours for this exchange. And then so that electromagnetic silver cord, which is very subtle cord, it is severed and soul moves up. It is disconnected completely from the dead body. So spirit means it is a suspended form. The soul is the energy, but what happens, because mind is associated with it, and due to strong desires or attachments, the soul doesn't want to ascend to the higher plane. It wants to remain, even it wants to come back to the dead body because of attachment. Just like we live in one house for many years, we don't want to leave it. So soul wants to enter, but it cannot enter the body. So it cannot ascend to the higher plane, it cannot come back to the body, so it remains suspended, and that form is known as spirit. So make spirit free from that state. The Shraddha ceremony, as we discussed, for 13 days we offer rice balls and water with Vedic mantras. So that reminds the soul that this is you are dead already, you have left the body, now you have to ascend. So they become free from that attachment and desire, and the spirit form, which is like a temporary, this is a temporary form, so they become free from that, they are no more suspended, and soul then ascends to higher plane, and remaining in higher plane for some time, then it is reborn. But in case if the spirit remains in the same, if the soul remains in spirit form, spirit means it is ethereal form, where the astral body is not completely formed to ascend. So they have to suffer, and some spiritual person has to help the person. And many times we have this experience that spirits, they are roaming around in their subtle form, and they want to fulfill their desires, and they try to find some medium, and through those mediums they fulfill their desires. However, it is a suspended form. It is a painful state, because you cannot move up, you cannot come down, you are just hanging around, and you cannot exhaust the karma even, but you suffer because you are thirsty, you are hungry. You means your mind is hungry and thirsty. but nobody is helping you. So Shraddha is the process to make you free from that, so that you are ready for the next opportunity. So this is the.
Baba, this is I have one more question, Baba.
I had difficulty in hearing. Can you just type the question, please? It will be helpful to read. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, can you meditate during the time in Pitraloka? Yes, mind is there, so mind can remain in that meditative state. But because you don't have body, physical body, so you cannot meditate or you cannot practice the Kriya techniques at least. But yes, meditation is a state beyond the body, beyond uh, thoughts. So you can maintain that meditative state in Pitraloka also. If you get dream of a loved one dying, what should I do? Just pray for the person. Dream is dream, it is not reality. Because dream is the state the mind can create any episode or any scene, so it is a dream. Although there are some dreams which are having some meaning or some indication of the future happenings, but I would suggest enjoy the dream. If you have some bad dream, pray for that. If you have good dream, enjoy that and forget it when you get up. So thank you very much for all your help and support. Hope to see you again with some next series, some more talks. I'm praying to God and Masters for all-round development. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all become happy and healthy. May everyone be noble, loving and kind, compassionate. May there be no sorrow or suffering. May there be more love, peace, prosperity, harmony among us and in this entire creation. May the blessings of God and the Masters be upon us all and everywhere. Om. Amen. Thank you all. See you next time in the month of December. By that time, don't forget the breath. Meditate sincerely with love. Thank you all.